streets are talking. You are now listening to The Box Out, tri-state area basketball talk at its best. And now your hosts, Kahlil Thomas and Jason Cordner. Let's get it.
From NJ to BK and the world, it's The Box Out here on the One Podcast Network YouTube channel. My name is Kahlil Thomas. Joining me in just a few minutes from Brooklyn, New York, will be Jason Cordner. And tonight, let's get this out the way first, right? First of all, Homer, sorry. The Knicks are playing at 9 o'clock tonight, which is ridiculous on so many levels. But besides that, this is a Knicks pregame show. I'm going to put it out there, call it what it is. Jason and I are both Knicks fans. This is probably the most important game we've watched. We're going to watch in the last 20 plus years. So this show that you're going to be watching tonight on YouTube is essentially a Knicks playoff preview pregame show. So we're talking Knicks a lot tonight. We'll obviously go through the other NBA playoff series and who's in, who's out. But tonight, the focus is on the New York Knicks as they go into Philadelphia tonight at 9 p.m. to face the Sixers. Game 6, first round. Knicks up 3-2 after Game 5 that they should have won. That game was theirs in their hands, like an Antonio Brown touchdown catch. And Tyrese Maxey, the NBA's most improved player, decided, with under a minute left, he would channel the ghost of Reggie Miller from 1995 and take a shit all over the Knicks. He scored 46 points, 7 points in that final minute play, including a 4-point play, which, upon further review, the NBA says that the officials actually missed the travel on that play. So really, the Knicks should have won. But once again, in Game 2, Maxey got fouled. They didn't call it. Game 5, Maxey traveled. They didn't call it. So there's no reason to look at that and say, we should have won the game and blame that. The game's over. The game was lost. We missed foul shots. That overtime in Game 5 was some of the worst possessions I've seen the Knicks have this entire season by far. So Game 6 tonight, and I'm going to put it out there and say this. If the Knicks do not win tonight in Philly, I seriously believe that the Knicks will lose the series. I think the Knicks lose the series if they don't win tonight. And I know I might put myself in a box just saying that, but I think that's the case. As I welcome in Jason Cordner from Brooklyn, New York. Jay, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. I kind of agree with you, man. I think if they don't win tonight, I think Game 7 is not looking promising.
Well, let's talk about Game 5 for a second and how the game was theirs. The Knicks had Game 5 in their hands. Tyrese Maxey decided to have, the minute of his life capped off with that 4-point play. Before we go into the overtime and how bad the overtime was, what went wrong for them late in that game in Game 5?
A little too much. A little relying too much on. I thought draining the clock was a bad mistake, especially if you wasn't going to keep the ball in Brunson's hands. Like the moment I saw Hart at the line, I kind of like, oh man, he's been having an up and down series. So I thought they were in trouble there. And Mitch, that was a bad foul with a 4-point play. You got to let him shoot regardless. And maybe not giving that foul when you had a foul to give. That also hurt them as well. But I thought after they were up by 6, they kind of played that prevent defense where, prevent you from winning. So I think it was a lot of errors that led to that. But then also Maxey, he had a minute of his life, going off for 6 points in less than 30 seconds. So I just think it was a lot of series. But look what it took for Philly to get 2 wins. It took a Hercules effort from Maxey late, and it took Embiid being efficient with 50 points on a lot of free throws at the line in Game 3. I still think the Knicks look good in this series. They just got to shake it off a little bit because the 76ers are getting no help from nobody outside of Maxey. So, but again, I also see tonight being a very hostile environment. We heard everything with the tickets, how they want to get the New Yorkers out of there. I agree. I really think if they don't win this game, man, it's gonna look bad. It's gonna be bad.
So we got our first Bruce comment of the night. Let's go. Cheers, Bruce. We hate you as always. Thanks so much for watching. Listen, at the end of the day, I feel like everything you said is right. I think not fouling. I think the other foul to give, run the clock down, because they've done it a lot this series, right? I've happened multiple times, not just at end of games, but end of halves too. I think they ran the clock down, and you end up in these really bad possessions that end with nothing. Yeah. Not even like a foul. They're not even driving to the basket as the clock runs down. They're just jacking up a three or a long range shot. My biggest issue, and I'm going to say this, I say this every week about the Knicks and Tom Thibodeau. He played 7 guys in Game 5. OG, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson all played 50 minutes or more. We're at this point where, yes, Brunson got some days off because he got hurt towards the end of the season. Obviously, OG missed some time so they're fresher players, whatever. I know they lost Bogdanović, and he's out for the season now. And I know he was actually torching Philly in those first few games of the series, and actually a big bench part. Hence, they were playing 8 guys to the 7.
Right.
Precious didn't play. Burks didn't play, even though I don't trust Alec Burks right now because he's not played his best basketball since coming back to the Knicks. But I feel like you have to expand that bench, especially when you have Embiid. Precious played Embiid so well. I think it was game 4.
Game 4, yep.
Yeah. Obviously, he's an undersized center. I get it. Precious was like 6'8", 6'9", so he's not the size of Joel Embiid, but he could body him up. Precious is a big body who did a really good job. Why wouldn't you take advantage of that? Why are you depending on Mitch? You're depending on Mitchell Robinson, who looked hurt in Game 5. Yeah. Spread the bench out. Give Burks 5 minutes to go. You have 5 minutes to show me something, anything. And if you show me something, I will give you some playing time. I'm not going to give you 30 minutes, but I'll give you 15. But
you think he might do that today?
I think he has to. He's 50 minutes. That's a lot. You got to. But after Burks, obviously you have DK, Daquan Jeffrey, Shake Milton. Those guys aren't playing. Right? He's going to have an 8-man bench. Why not have Burks come out there? Why not have Achua? Go 9. Right. You also you got to sit Brunson, and I know we're going to get into this in a second. Brunson needs to sit a little bit. You have to kind of okay, we have to give him 4 minutes. We got to sit him down and let him catch his breath. So,
agreed.
I think that's the big. I think towards the end of that game, Brunson's putting up some bad shots that weren't even hitting the back of the rim. They're hitting front rim. Someone shot an air ball. I can't remember who shot the air ball. In game, might have Josh Hart.
I think it was Hart.
But yeah, so you got to stretch the bench out now. Now we're getting to the point where guys are getting tired. This has been a rough series, especially for Brunson. Yep. Brunson's getting beat up. So you got to rest these guys at some point and give them 4 or 5 minutes. I take a breather. You got 5 minutes. Drink some Gatorade, get some fluids, and get back out there.
We'll see. But I think Tibbs is going to coach tonight not to lose. I think he doesn't want to see a Game 7 either.
I mean, they get a Game 7, even this at the Garden, and I would be ecstatic for a Game 7 at the Garden because obviously I ain't gonna be there because I can't afford. I would be ecstatic. I would be ecstatic for a Game 7 if they weren't up 3-1. Exactly. So Bruce says it's gonna come up. Tibbs already treating DiVincenzo like Fournier.
You gotta let him loose tonight, man. You gotta let him loose.
Well, here's the thing, and this goes back to the other issue I have. Do you see DiVincenzo and Josh Hart? Do you see those guys kind of coming alive tonight? Because DiVincenzo's a streaky shooter. Josh Hart's not a scorer. Josh Hart's not there to score 25 points a game. He scores when it's there for him to score. But I feel like they're putting a lot of pressure on Josh Hart, putting a lot of pressure on DiVincenzo because besides Brunson, that's really all they have left.
I think You gotta let him. You gotta let him. You gotta let him try to get out of his little, shooting slump. I think they gotta take the breaks and take all the reins off of DiVincenzo. He's home. Let him cook. Hart. Let him play the way he is. I just think, like you said earlier, we might need to see an Alex Burke sighting. I think, like you said, we gotta find 5 minutes. 5 minutes for Brunson just to relax a little bit. Because even Philly's kind of extended the bench a little bit.
Are we still complaining about superior young athletes needing breathers? They made it this far with this formula. Why change now? They get paid the big bucks to go hard. I kind of agree with that. I feel like Tibbs plays his guys a lot of minutes. We've complained about this for years, how he runs these guys down. And obviously, I think for grit purposes, they're a grittier team. They're a mentally tougher team in Philly by far. But I do feel like there should be points in the game where, like, all right, last 3 minutes of the first quarter, you're going to sit. I feel like it's not really shifting the game either way if you sit them down for the last 3-4 minutes of the first quarter. I'm not saying sit them down. Okay, 6 minutes left of the game, you sit for 2 minutes, you come in with 3 minutes left. No. But intermittent breathers ain't a big deal. Just get them something. Just get them one of those real quick.
I couldn't agree more.
So you talked about the bench for Philly. Paul Reed played 3 minutes. Cameron Payne played 13. Batum played 33. So it's a lot of Batum on Brunson, which has been pretty effective up to game 3, game 4. Besides Maxey, though, you didn't have a team that scored a lot of points. Embiid only had 19 points in game 5. Harris had 19. Harris had a decent game, but you really haven't heard his name. Kelly Oubre really hasn't had a big series. Is it one of those things where, and as Knicks fans, we can kind of adjust to this? Let Jordan get his points, let Maxey get his points, but then shut everybody else down.
It seems that that's the formula. But when Maxey goes for 46 and then B goes for 50, and that's not helping either. But I think I'm more okay with Maxey getting his points and you shutting down Embiid because he's, especially now where Game 7 will be Saturday or Sunday.
I will check right now. I believe Saturday. Don't quote me on that. Saturday 7.
All right, so we're definitely doing the one in between. So I think Embiid won't be that. He will be looking very sluggish tonight in the beginning, and I think they got to take advantage of that.
Is it me or does it seem like Embiid? There's maybe game 5. It's starting. You're starting to show frustration starting to kick in.
Oh yeah,
a little bit more of an attitude, and he had that flagrant on Brunson for slapping him in the face randomly. I feel like we've done a good job of kind of taking Embiid out the game mentally, where Embiid, he's not really making a lot of all of his shots, so he's getting frustrated offensively, and defensively, we're just driving on him and making him tired. And I think driving inside and Brunson switching and getting Embiid, and Brunson just running in circles on purpose. I think the mental game with Embiid's always been pretty weak, and I think we're kind of exposing that now.
No, 100%. And now Ben Simmons is not around to be the scapegoat.
Listen, if I don't want to ask this question, but I almost have to as we're reporters. If the Sixers lose tonight, what happens next in Philly? Because I think we need to. Bruce said Embiid needs to be traded. That's the first thing. If the Sixers lose tonight, what happens in Philly?
Well, I think if they lose tonight, he'll be 1-8 in elimination games. So that's never a good record. I think the fans will start to turn on Embiid because I think they see more of a future with Maxey, and Embiid's never really, he plays. He has that warrior spirit. He plays hurt, but he's yet to deliver a conference championship appearance, and that's not a good thing. And I think we're long past, trusting the process. I think the fans do turn on him a little bit.
I can't remember who said it. There's so many talking head shows, it's hard to kind of keep up who says what. But someone said that Embiid was part of that process in Philly. So he came into losing and is just continuously losing. And he doesn't know how to win because he came into the league losing games, essentially on purpose, and he just cannot win. Do you think that's not true? Because I think that's kind of a lot, but is Embiid a winner? I think that's the question now.
I think he gets a bad rap. You know, he did win the MVP last year, and he should have maybe but he did win. He did win. And I kind of think management, you know, they did side it with Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler, and we all found out that was an enormous mistake. And maybe they held on to Ben Simmons a little too longer than they needed to. So some of this blame I'm gonna take on management, not really all Embiid. Harden was Harden, so it's like they never really put the right cast around him. Even though he definitely has a Robin and Maxey, who kind of reminds me of a young. He reminds me of in between Butler and Reggie Lewis. I don't remember Reggie Lewis.
Reggie Lewis, yeah. Wow, that brought me back. Wow.
He kind of remind me of, you put those two players together. He kind of remind me. That's what Maxey reminds me of. But I think they have a lot of cap space this summer. They might try to go after Paul George. They might try to go after another wing. They'll be fine if they run it back. But I do think the fans will start turning on him a little bit.
Well, here's my question too. I think with the whole, has Maxey kind of continues his ascension and becomes a bigger name, a bigger piece.
Mm-hmm.
Does Philly become Maxey's team eventually? I feel like
I think so.
Maxey saved them on Game 5. I think the more Maxey plays like this and the more pub that he gets, and I think eventually it stops becoming Embiid's team and Maxey becomes the alpha, and he's the Batman, and Embiid becomes Robin, which is a whole nother conversation.
How old is Embiid? 32? How old is Embiid? 30? No, is he in the 30s yet?
I believe so, yeah. Is he 30? He's 32 already?
But he's 32.
I gotta look that up. I mean, he's 32 in dog years at this point because he's been.
That's what I'm saying.
Remember, he missed first 2 years he was out. He's 30. He's 30.
Okay. But he's 30 with a lot of miles.
At some point.
A lot of miles.
Yeah. And listen, big body. So automatically the mileage is built up already. First 2 years in the league, I don't think he played the first. I know he definitely played the first year. I'm not sure if the second year he played too. I can't remember. But I know. And if that happens, how would Embiid react to being Robin when he's been Batman for years and years and years?
Well, it's kind of like Randall having to concede the team over to Brunson. If you want to win, that's what you got to do. I don't think anyone thinks it's Randall's team anymore.
That is the perfect segue to my next point. Does the Knicks do the myth? Why can't I speak to them? Do the Knicks miss Julius Randle in this series?
100%. 100%. It gave you that low post presence that probably would have got Embiid in more foul trouble than we seen Embiid him swatting Brunson shots down in overtime. But I definitely think this is where the Knicks miss Randle the most in this series. I don't think they would miss him so much against the Pacers in the next series, but this series absolutely.
So, give me one key for the Knicks to win tonight.
Offensive rebounds. They got to get them.
Mm-hmm. I'd say offensive rebounds. You can't have a slow start. I think you can't. All 5 games, I feel like they've started slowly. I feel like you have to kind of come out, take command, get the crowd out of it, because the crowd's going to be more Philly than Knicks, because they went the great lengths to make sure Knicks fans don't. Yeah. Well, they went the great lengths to make sure Knicks fans don't buy tickets. So that's the plan. I don't know if it's going to work, though.
I don't think it's going to work. I don't think they realize what, Yeah, it's not going to work. But
listen.
Good luck.
Evan and Tiki from FAN here in New York, they're there. They did the radio show in the Philly radio station this afternoon. So they made the trip. So they're not the only ones.
Like I told my boss this. I was like, listen, man, if you ever look at those Knicks fans in the videos, it's a lot of Upper West Side, Upper East Side kids with wealth and privilege. They will spend whatever it takes to get inside Wells Fargo Arena. So they'll be there.
Well, I think the conspiracy was that they made the game 9 to kind of de-incentivize Knicks fans to make the trip because it's so late, and the game's over 11:30. You got to get back to New York. Get back there. It's like 2 a.m. Blah blah blah. I'm like, Go ahead.
I literally did WrestleMania, which is right across the parking lot. And I walked and took the Uber to the Megabus, and I was home at a fairly reasonable time in the middle of the night.
The Megabus. You took the Megabus.
I'm sure. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of New Yorkers that's willing to do that. Megabus run every hour anyway, so they'll be all right.
Man, I've always wanted to take the Megabus from New York to Boston. I wanted to kind of experience that one.
To Philly it was less than 2 hours.
That's not bad. That's really, you don't have to like deal with
and
tolls
they didn't even go over the Ben Franklin Bridge. They took some other back route and got us there quick.
That's good to know for the next MLW show at ECW Arena. Maybe I'll take the Megabus down there.
The Megabus, telling you.
Bruce in the chat. Nick's gonna look like McConnell at the podium tonight. LOL. Listen, I'm gonna say it again.
I have a bad feeling about tonight.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
I do.
No, I'm saying that if they lose tonight, I'm almost 90% sure the Knicks lose on Saturday in Game 7. I feel like you're up 3-1. They force a Game 7. I feel like your morale is gone. And I feel like at that point in Game 7, you're playing scared because you're doing everything. Exactly. That's when bad shots happen. That's when turnovers occur. That's when defensive lapses happen. So I feel like if tonight doesn't happen, I feel like we're looking at a Game 7 that's going to be even worse and more disappointing. So tonight, and you hate to say this, it's a must win. You have to win this game, not just to advance to the next round, but you have to win this game to just stay in the playoffs. Because I feel like you lose tonight, I think the season's over Saturday.
Yep.
And I hate to feel that way, but you're right. I've tried not to think about this all day. Everyone that works like you, I wore this today. Wore my Knicks polo to work. Can't really see it because I keep covering up my hand. People, you're ready for the Knicks tonight? I'm not thinking about it. Don't talk to me about it. 9 o'clock. Yeah, 9 o'clock. I don't want to think about it. And all day in my head, I'm like, what if? What if Josh Hart shoots 215? What if DiVincenzo, shoots 3 for 20? What if Brunson gets hurt? I'm like, all these things are running through my head. I'm like, I got to stop. I got to stop.
And you know what? It doesn't help? It doesn't help seeing these weird-ass posts on social media of Devin Booker to the Knicks. And I'm like, I don't want to see any of these false trades, rumors, and all this crap.
God.
I want to worry about this game. Not even Game 7. I want to worry about this game.
Game 7 tonight in Philly. Right now, there's another elimination game going right now. Indiana's up 3-2 in that series. They're also up right now, up by 9 over Milwaukee with about a little under 2 minutes left in the third quarter. So it looks like Indiana is going to advance if they can hold on against Milwaukee, who's shorthanded as hell. So Milwaukee loses series, you could almost, you don't want to say give them a pass, but no Giannis. Dame's been beat up.
Yeah.
Chris Middleton's always beat up. So you can kind of say walking wounded. So you can kind of give Milwaukee a pass. And Indiana against the Knicks, looking ahead. I shouldn't be looking ahead because I'm an idiot doing this. It's an intriguing series, but we got to get past that first. I want to look at the other series. I want to get to the series that are over first, that ended while we're away. Celtics Heat. I don't think there's much. Not as much to say about that series, honestly.
They were undermanned. No Jimmy. They had the best shooting performance in their history to get one, which was incredible. But outside of that game, it was a bloodbath.
Yeah, same thing with Thunder Pelicans. The Pelicans just looked like they weren't ready to play. OKC, that game one when they won by 1, I was like, is that youth? And I think I was right. I think the first game they won barely, but I felt like that was like that group's first time in the playoffs is a young group, youngest team in the NBA, and I feel like they kind of got their bearings after game 1 and went on to blow out the Pelicans. The other series that's over is Minnesota Phoenix, a sweep. Phoenix can't do anything. There's a huge deep dive on what Phoenix can do coming up in the offseason. They can't do anything. Phoenix is kind of screwed right now because Durant's making 50, Booker's making 50, and I think Beal's making close to 50. They're already gonna hit the second level of luxury tax, so they're done. They have like no draft picks for the next 8 years. They really have no money to spend now because they're in that second luxury tax tier. They can't do those, mid-level exceptions and the vet minimum and all that stuff. What happens in Phoenix besides Frank Vogel getting fired again and getting screwed over for the 18th time in his coaching career?
I think Phoenix and the Lakers got to come to terms that they need new personnel to compete in the West. Because I think, if anything, Minnesota, New Orleans, when they get their act together, definitely OKC, definitely Denver, and definitely I'm probably forgetting somebody. And Minnesota, we said Minnesota. There's too many. The top of the West is heavy now, so I think just to compete with these young teams, you got to get younger. And I think for Phoenix, even with a big three, a very limited big three, you're not going to get far. We kind of saw it in the first round. I think this is their ceiling. I think you need to do what the Nets couldn't do, and you might want to move Book and recoup some assets. Same thing with Durant. I'm not saying blow it up, but you might want to move one of those guys just to try to recoup some assets and try to build a team around them. I think the whole 2-3 man team, super team era is over. And I think it's over anyway.
Well, Bruce mentioned this in the chat. I'm about to say this too. Bradley Beal still has a no trade. So
it ain't him. He ain't moving.
No, he's stuck. You could move Booker. You could try to move Durant. Durant just got there. Durant seems based on the press conference after the game, after they got swept, it seems like he wants to stay in Phoenix. It seems like he wants to give it another year. We'll see how long that lasts. But at this point, there's an ESPN article about what can he do, and the biggest point ESPN made said, well, they could re-sign Royce O'Neal. I'm like, damn, that's where we are now. The biggest move they could make this offseason is re-signing Royce O'Neal. They gave Grayson Allen a huge extension because they kind of had to. And now Royce O'Neal is the answer that they have. The third guy off the bench, possibly. It is. I didn't understand. Matt Ishbia, when he brought the team, you knew he was going to spend some money. You knew he was going to go all in. I got Devin Booker, made the trade for KD. I thought that would be enough. The Beal trade made no sense to me in the first place.
Right.
And then you just you put all these random parts, and Yuta wants Nabi and O'Neal and Allen and Nurkic, and you're just trying to put these pieces together that don't really fit, but you have no money, so you have mid-levels, and they're screwed. I'm sorry. I think they'll all be there next year with a new coach.
Okay.
They'll bomb again. And we'll be back here talking about Phoenix all over again, getting swept in the playoffs next year.
Well, they'll probably be a play-in next year.
I don't see how this ends any other way. Yeah, I don't see how this ends any other way for Phoenix. The other Western Conference series that ended, the Lakers got one win, but the Nuggets took 4 games to 1. You mentioned the Lakers too. What are their plans? What can they do? Because I feel like they're kind of stuck.
Yeah, it's not good when your best player is almost 40. But kudos to Anthony Davis. He showed up this year. He played 75 games out of 82. He looked good in the playoffs. But again, outside of those two, they really, the lack of talent. They needed a bench, and that might be something they might have to address. Maybe they move off of D'Lo, but what you're going to get for him? Austin Reed, you could probably move him, but what you're really going to get for him? So I think they're kind of stuck in purgatory a little bit too. They're going to be a playing team again next year.
Bruce says LeBron is going to Golden State, and he's guaranteeing it. Your face is like, possibly. That could happen.
No, I see KD going back. I don't see LeBron going. I see KD going back.
With or without Draymond? Did they say, we'll get rid of Draymond for you if you come back?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Draymond go on the Knicks. Just putting that out there.
I don't want that. I want no part of that.
We need an enforcer, man. We need someone to when they go high, someone's gonna go for the legs.
You know who should be an enforcer? Jericho Sims, because he can't. He's a terrible ball player, but he's a big body. He can just knock somebody down. I would appreciate that. Just knock somebody down. He should go in there tonight and just take Embiid out. I would do that. LeBron make it if he gets the option, $51 million. Anthony Davis, $43 million. D'Lo, 18. Rui Hachimura, 17. Austin Reeves, 12. Gabe Vincent, 11. Jarrett Vanderbilt, who I forgot was even on the damn team, 10.7. And then it's a huge downgrade after that. Listen, the bench, they got Hachimura. They brought Reeves back, which I thought was a huge mistake. They shouldn't have did that.
Mm-hmm.
They signed Gabe Vincent. They thought Vanderbilt would be a good addition. They thought the corpse of Christian Wood would give them something, and that didn't happen. It just seemed like, and kind of like Phoenix, the same situation. They tried to kind of fill these holes, and nothing worked. Nothing worked. And even when you got to the trade deadline and when you got to the buyout market, the best they could do buyout-wise was Spencer Dinwiddie and Harry Giles. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's it.
I think they're shots. Like I said, play in forever. The series that I said no one cares about might actually be the most entertaining one. Cavaliers, Magic. Cavs up 3-2. I can see this one going 7 because I feel like you have two teams, one really young and one with a lot of I won't say a lot of experience, but that's besides Donovan Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's kind of going back and forth. And one, nobody wants to win the series. And two, it's been a lot of good basketball, especially from Orlando. Who do you see taking the series? Because I think it's a toss-up still.
I think it's a toss-up still too, but I kind of lean towards the Cavs. I think it's the classic two young teams, home court prevail. It's that classic series. So I think I'm gonna go with the Cavs in 7. But like you said, it's the most entertaining. Kudos to NBA TV for holding us down with this series.
I know. Good point.
They have not smelled TNT at all. Neither team. Or
it's funny. I'm like,
ESPN for that fact.
Well, I'm sitting here. The other night. I was like, "What channel is Orlando, Cleveland?" I'm like, "It's not ESPN on GT." They got relegated. Oh,
they got relegated.
Damn. That's like when the first XFL in 2001. You knew the game was bad when it's like, all right, you're gonna have the national broadcast game, and then you had like the Sunday afternoon UPN game. I'm like, and that was usually New Jersey's time. The Hitmen usually played that 2 p.m. Sunday UPN game that no one watched. So NBA TV, good job. Real quick though, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that too because I wanted to bring this up. Apparently, NBC is gonna make a huge play to get NBA back.
Yeah.
And Warner Brothers Discovery, who own TNT, they're kind of on the outs. I think they might be low ball in the NBA. My one buddy can care less. He wants to go back to NBC because he thinks Bob Costas is going to be there and Round Ball Rock's going to be on. And you can get those like old school graphics. I tell him it doesn't work that way.
Well, and Fox already got the song.
Rights.
So
yeah. But how growing up, I watched Turner. I watched TNT. I watched, Inside the NBA, and I watched Ernie Johnson. Growing up, I knew Ernie Johnson more than I knew, any other announcer besides Stuart Scott. How bad would this be if the NBA moved off of TNT? Because TNT and the NBA, that's an institution right now.
It'll be bad. However, I'm pretty sure here's the thing. They talk about Amazon's going to make a big play too. So I'm not sure who's going to get the second package outside of ESPN. But whoever gets the second package, I think they will probably buy those guys out. The same way, Troy Aikman and went from Fox to ESPN. I think inside the NBA crew, I think that's going to be bought out and sent somewhere else. So hopefully that's the case. I would hope that's the case. But it'll be sad to see TNT go, especially because NBC left so long ago. It's like you don't really feel that connection with them. Like you care less about Bob Costas. But inside the NBA is the greatest post show in any sport.
Mm-hmm. For pre-game, post, halftime, like little things like them running to the big board. I'm like, oh shit, look Kenny got beat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's little things like that you don't see. And the ESPN has tried. They've tried with Countdown. They've tried. It doesn't work. Inside the NBA, it just works because they don't. And I think the NHL is doing the same thing on TNT as well. The NHL and TNT, their studio show is similar to inside the NBA too, because it's real loose and there's bullshit. Right. So I feel like that's going to be big. But I do feel like they're going to stay on TNT. That's what Bruce was saying in the chat too. I think the NBA realizes that what they have with TNT, and you may not get a lot of people watching the games on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but you get a lot of people watching inside the NBA the next day. Or they show the replay on NBA TV the next morning for like 3 hours straight. So I feel like the NBA is going to come to their senses and be like, nah. Plus, it's NBC. Who cares about NBC, honestly?
I mean, honestly, I only watch Peacock because of WWE. And I think their rights are up next year, too. So there you go.
I mean, I use it for like John Wick and shit like that.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, John Wick and Poker Face with Natasha Lyonne. That's what I watch on Peacock now. Other than that, I have no interest in NBC anything. So 99-84, Pacers up by 15. That's what 8:52 left in the fourth. So looks like the Pacers are going to advance on. I want to talk to you about college for a second. There's been some movement regarding player payment. And we always talk about how players should have a seat at the table and be part of the payment. Of course, coaches complaining it's amateur, blah, 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 blah. But then you had, I believe, I can't remember the school. But the school actually unionized. A basketball team actually became part of a union. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for players to unionize? College players, college athletes to unionize and be able to collective bargain with their schools or with the NCAA or with conferences or whatever the case may be.
I think it's a good idea, only because of you see what's going on in both football and basketball in terms of like the conferences are getting enormously bigger, the money is getting bigger. The players should get some kind of compensation for that. It shouldn't just be like, hey, you're getting a free education and you're a student athlete. So even though they get the NIL, not everybody's going to get NIL money. There's not enough to go around for everybody. I think with this union, that might help the players that are on the bubble. Like, I mean, yes, Bronny James, he's probably a subpar player, and he's covered because of his dad, and because of that, not even his dad, but his dad hooking him up with NIL deals. But that guy that's on the bench is averaging like 4.5 points a game. This will help that person out, especially, in the long run.
Dartmouth was the school, so Ivy League school Dartmouth for unionized, which is
and now it makes sense. An Ivy League school would have to be the first.
Yeah, the wrong basketball team to have unionized, who are like the smartest kids in the country, the unionized, which you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
I think it. I'm part of a union. I think unions is necessary. I think this is big because I think if one team does, I know Northwestern tried it a couple of years ago, and
another smart school.
Another smart school. But I think you almost have to. You still have to force colleges and conferences and the NCAA's hand when it comes to paying players. Unfortunately, you can't just go and ask them. You have to force them. We saw the Ed O'Bannon lawsuits and the other lawsuits that the NCAA is involved in. You can't just ask. You have to force their hand and say, "We want this. We want that. We want this."
Yep.
That's where we are now. If you got to unionize and collective bargain and threaten, we're going to strike. We're not going to play. Fuck yeah. Things get done. Unfortunately, you got to take it there. And I think college athletes, and you're seeing college students, you're seeing with the protests and all that stuff, college students themselves are like, we're just not going to sit here and just like, okay, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, things are great. We're gonna fight. We're gonna put ourselves out there and deal with the consequences or the benefits as is. So I think this is a big moment for Dartmouth and any other school that decides to unionize going forward. Now, will it work? That's a whole other conversation. I don't know.
Agreed.
Because NCAA got lawyers upon lawyers, so I'm not sure it's going to work, but we'll see.
But you know who has lawyers too?
On the Pacers,
Ivy League students. Ivy League students have lawyers too,
and their parents. And their parents. If you've seen the Social Network, the Winklevosses, they had lawyers. Their dad's a lawyer. Pacers destroying the Bucks. Doc Rivers will be on TV again until next season. Yeah, I mean, listen.
Hey, question.
I said it before. I say it again.
If they beat, if when the Bucks get eliminated, is Doc eligible to go work back at ESPN, ABC in time for the NBA Finals, a la Jeff Saturday?
Jeff Saturday. That's the worst example of TV to coach back in TV. He is, but you think ESPN kind of want to fuck with him after what he did, though? I think ESPN's like, no, we're good. You can just go home.
You know what? You're right. You're right. Because JJ Redick has emerged to be a saving grace for ESPN basketball coverage. So you're right.
And an interviewee for the Charlotte Hornets head coaching job, which I'm like, why is JJ Redick getting interviewed for jobs? Like, is he a basketball savant that I don't know? And
it's that LeBron. It's that LeBron rub. Everybody loves him and LeBron's podcast, but he talk about X's and O's. I can see it.
Bruce,
I hate
JJ Redick is trash. I agree. Well, speaking of LeBron, and I forgot this point when we talk about the Lakers. The Lakers, according to sources, so we got to kind of take it with a grain of salt. The Lakers, in order to keep LeBron, they would be interested in drafting Bronny. How desperate of a move is that? We'll draft your son, who we know nothing about, who was a above average high school player, an average college player with heart problems. How desperate is that move to say, we'll bring your son if you want to stay here? That's kind of like a desperate look for LA.
That's called guaranteeing a return on your investment. That's a great look by the Lakers. 2-for-1 package by the Lakers. 2-for-1 package by the James gang. I love it.
Well, it's funny. I talked to my father about that whole thing, and my dad's like, if you literally dropped on the floor playing basketball, I would not let you pick up another basketball for the rest of your life. I'm like,
that's kind of that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, the Jameses are built differently, I guess. They, heart problem be damned. I'm going to play some ball and just see what happens. We're going to end the show here because I think I need to go get set. I might light some incense, burn some sage, pray a little bit, and hope and pray that the Knicks don't get beat tonight. We'll be back on Sunday. Is that good for you, Jay? I'm just announcing days.
All good.
So our next show is going to be Sunday, and what we're going to do
the series will be over by Sunday.
It's either be a post-mortem or it's going to be a celebration. I'm hoping for the latter. So our Sunday night show will either be us looking forward to playing the Pacers, or us crying and looking at what went wrong in the next season. So that should be a fun show on Sunday. Either way, I'm very, very happy. See y'all for the WNBA opening games. That's happening this month too. So we got that coming. Yep. You're going to media day. So for the Liberty.
Media day on Saturday, which I didn't realize. I'm going in the morning, and then I'll have Backlash to come home to it in the afternoon. How nice. Because Backlash is in France.
They're in France forever. I don't care anymore. Where you start? Okay, before we leave, real quick. Obviously, AEW's ratings are not great, and I know Bruce is going to shit on them in a second.
Mm-hmm.
WWE ratings are going down too, and the playoffs and blah, 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 I know that's going to be an excuse, and people are using that same excuse for AEW, but it just seems like after Mania, there's just not a lot of fire.
It's not. It's usually like this, not till about June, not even June, till like June, July, until we get ready for SummerSlam. Now it's probably like the dog days of It's always like that. It's on my word.
In the draft, and I didn't watch all 3 hours on Monday. I didn't watch all 2 hours on Friday.
Nope. Nobody of significance really moved. It was
nothing happened.
I kind of like the new format in terms of like, all right, the current champions stay where they're at. I could deal with that.
Nothing happened.
Nothing major.
It was the most boring draft I've ever I remember years like guys just move and like Cena got drafted and like I get the champions they put. Makes sense. But I'm like, what is no one moving is Andrade? I'm like, okay. He just got.
They only moved back. They only moved them to SmackDown because Charlotte's on SmackDown. So I mean, they did that. They did correct some of those things.
I don't know. AEW, I'm kind of digging the new Elite, and then Omega came back, and now MJF might be back sooner than people thought he would, and Samoa Joe got some babyface reaction last night. So I'm like, okay, they might be building up to like this major battle between like the Elite, and I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. Cause I'm kind of interested now. So they got my interest back again. And then Swerve's champ, so that's always good.
That's always great.
It's always good. Jay's always great show, man.
Likewise.
So Sunday show will either be a celebration or a disaster in the making. So tune in 8 p.m. on Sunday to see what it is. That's a tease for you. Tune in Sunday 8 p.m. here on the YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the Knicks. Hopefully we win the night and go home and sleep. Or I'm up till 2 in the morning on X, just bitching. So for Jason Court, I'm Kahlil Thomas. We'll see you on Sunday. Peace.
Peace.
This has been The Box Out with Kahlil Thomas and Jason Courtner. Subscribe now for the best tri-state area basketball talk.